Let's get back to Yu-Dee Chang, Principal and Chief Advisor at ACE Investment Strategies. Yu-Dee, as you mentioned a moment ago, parts of Washington are in lockdown for the nuclear summit, but the press and investors seem to be really focused on what's happening on the sidelines, the yuan debate. Do you think investors are going to be somewhat disappointed because we're unlikely to see any move on the currency appreciation front?
Yep, you're absolutely right, Karen. They will be disappointed. I think President Obama and President Hu Jintao, they actually met. Our time right now is about 7:30. I think they met about 5 hours ago with Secretary Geithner present as well. Nothing really came out of it. Basically, I think the Chinese state press release and Hu Jintao is saying that, well, you know, our currency valuation, we will consider it at our own economic interest. And President Obama actually said, okay, we respect the sovereignty of China. So basically nothing came out of it. I think the expectation is this. You know, Karen, if you think about it, it's kind of interesting. For the currency critique, they're saying the Chinese currency is about 25% to 40% undervalued. We're talking about 40%. What do you want them to do? Chinese are saying that, you know what, we're very reluctant to move our currency, especially at this stage that we had what? Our first trade deficit in 6 years, and the fact that we're taking back our stimulus package from last year. We really would like to see our economy stabilize without inflation before we adjust our currency.
Not everyone agrees on the extent of whether it is valued or undervalued at those levels. But in terms of when we might be likely to see some move, do you think China will make a show of faith and revalue the currency before the midterm elections? Because no doubt such a move would be gratefully received by the Obama administration.
Yeah, I can tell you, personally, I have absolutely no idea, but market expectation-wise, if you look at the currency trading models right now, it's predicting that there's a high chance of the Chinese do move their currencies within the next 6 to 8 weeks, about 3%. I think right now it's trading at, what, 6.825? So they're thinking and talking about 6.5 against the yuan, against the dollar, that is. So I think that's a possibility of it. I think maybe they have to make a small gesture, moving about 3%, which is what they done the last time. I think this problem is going to continue on for years to come.
You got to ask you, though, you mentioned that trade deficit back in March, the first in 6 years. At the same time, also in March, we had a slowdown in new renminbi lending. You put those two things together, wouldn't it be fair to say that market expectations, FX markets, you know, the degree to which they're pricing in renminbi appreciation, the pace as well as the quantum, that is certainly, I mean, it must be tapered back now.
Absolutely so, 100%, like you were saying. However, don't forget that so-called trade deficit of about 7.5 billion, right? I think out of that trade deficit, is really coming from against Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan. Against the U.S., there was still a huge surplus. And also, this so-called deficit is not expected to last. They're saying, you know, overall speaking, the Chinese trade numbers is still expected to return to surplus. However, like yours, based on their economy, where it's and based on their trade numbers, no doubt, the expectations of the magnitude of the appreciation of RMB has scaled back for sure, definitely.
Yu-Dee, isn't the risk here that there could be a gap of expectations between what the Chinese are prepared to offer and what the people in Washington are prepared to accept?
Yeah, there's definitely a huge gap. People in Washington is actually thinking, or at least they're saying, they're asking for about 15%, 12 to 15% appreciation. There's no way they will do that. I think the market expectation is a much smaller gap. The market right now expecting somewhere between 3 to about 5%. Personally, I think they'll probably do something within the next 6 to 8 weeks. However, it's probably going to come in at the lower end of the scale. Probably about 3% appreciation.
Okay. Yu-Dee, very quickly, with the prospects that the market could sell off, buying the rumor, sell on the fact, post-earnings season, what are you doing tactically right now?
You know what? You know, as a trader, it's kind of interesting. At least I can't say this for a fact, but I do know this type of market only reverses on a so-called intraday reversal. It's got to be on some good news day, market open higher, trade higher, and sells off in order for the market to reverse its course. So right now, I want to keep it short term. I want to go and start playing the so-called sector rotation game. I still like the market, but not necessarily the overall market. I want to rotate my money in and and out of different sectors.
So stay on your toes indeed, investors. Thank you very much. Yu-Dee Chang, Principal and Chief Advisor at ACE Investment Strategies. Still to come, Adobe has launched